It is episode 160 something. And tonight we are talking about triple A players on the cusp, as well as drafting our dream team in Roto of all things. It's time for Dingers.
This is Dingers, way more than fantasy baseball. We keep it real when we talk and knock it straight out the park. Let's see the stats, what's the average draft position? What kind of plays you making? Check the wins above replacement, check the lineups and the points. This I gotta see, what's your path to victory? Are they aiming for a dynasty? Get points going head to head, please don't do me no favors. We're always watching waivers, ain't no minor league, this is major. Yeah, Dingers, let's go.
Welcome to Dingers, the only fantasy baseball podcast for smart people. It's not just Joey Bart that wins you championships. That's why week in and week out we're delivering tips and strategies to help you live that straight up OG lifestyle. Tyler Childs joined again by Robbie Baseball from Sans Murder Room. No, Sans? No, that's without. With said Murder Room. Robbie Baseball is with us this evening. For those of you that can't hear, you can see Robbie Baseball 1 on Twitter. You can get me, Tourney Boss, on Twitter. And, of course, the podcast at Dingers Pod. So don't be shy. Reach out. Ask great questions, which is part of our show today. We got a fantastic question. But, Robbie, how you doing, buddy?
I'm swell, thank you. How are you?
Good. The word is good. So, right?
Good.
No, that's the number, right? The vampire guy does numbers, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's the count.
Yes.
So he counts.
Yeah, he's not the word. Or
no wonder we don't know about a guy with numbers. Of course, we don't know that guy.
We don't do numbers. We don't do numbers. It's the people that study catchers, right? So, because we're not good with numbers, we choose to be good at other things, and that is. A long time ago, someone decided to put stuff in glass bottles. In some of these bottles, they put juice or milk, and that was stupid. Today, only alcohol and a few other products remain in the containers from the gods. It's time for beers and bourbon, because good advice only comes in a bottle. Oh, is this your third hat of the show?
Yeah. If we have any more segment breaks, I'm starting to look around. Do I have a fourth? Yes, I do.
I think that's all the segment breaks we have lined up for this evening. I don't know if we can fit too many more in or not, but
okay.
Yeah.
I should have changed my glasses because these ones are very dirty from wearing them. Went fishing with the boy today, just at a spot, a little pond where he catches fish in mere seconds, and he was just nabbing them. So all I did all day was just put fresh worms on, and then, accidentally touch the glasses, and then they get all spotted up. But these are the fishing shades, but they will also be the fantasy shades for tonight. So I can't speak behalf on you, Macho Man.
Yeah, you definitely need shade when you're talking fantasy baseball, because sometimes you need to apply shade to players. A lot of the time is spent on the shine, but the shade is always a nice thing to do. So let's talk about the shine side this evening, Robbie. I'm gonna get us started with a Woodford.
How about a Woodford?
How about a Woodford? And definitely ready to talk some of these promotions that are either happening currently as we speak, or this week, or possibly next week. There's a lot of names that we're going to be talking about a lot, and nobody's quite mentioning some of them yet. So we're going to be the leaders in that clubhouse, Robbie. We're going to talk about these guys, very therapeutic. So before we get into that, what are you most looking forward to as we move through this post sticky stuff scenario? What's next for you?
Let's see. What am I most looking forward to? Well, tonight I'm enjoying my ABERB Transatlantic American Pale Ale. So I've still got a few of these bad boys kicking around. But I'm looking forward to just baseball, just progressing. I think the idea, just much like a fantasy commissioner changing a rule or a setting in season, is dumb and is a qualified reason to quit the league. unless it's one of those things that unanimously the league has agreed on that is hurting play. Whoops. Like, let's say you're in a 30 team league and you don't have IL spots, something ridiculous like that, right? Well, this year has really crushed you, blah, blah, blah. But if you're in a smaller league, if you're in anything, down low and you've got 4 or 5 spots, you got to deal with it. It's just, that's par for the course. But if your commissioner is saying, you know what, we're going to change the rules, that's a dumb idea. So MLB commissioner saying, you know what, we're going to change the rules. We're now going to start to enforce something that we didn't care about before, because now there's enough data out there that it's apparent to the above average fan. Let's call fantasy fans. We should be, all of us, above average, because we're not just looking at our team and loving our team. We're looking around baseball. So if you're a fantasy fan, a fantasy player, you're looking around baseball. For all of us, this hurts us, because this hurts the players. This hurts our ability to put work in and get results out of it, because now we've got to go back and think, okay, now what's the safety net on pitchers and sticky stuff? So now for me, it's reliability.
Yeah, I think there's an interesting thing going on here that no one's really talked about yet. I think this is the first shot of the CBA. I think this is Major League Baseball saying we're taking this seriously, and we're going to be making wholesale shifts in some of these things. And I think this is the first one. And I got to imagine the reason it's happening in season is simply because they said to the union, this is what we're thinking about doing. They said, don't you dare. And they flexed their muscles and said, we do whatever we want.
Right.
That's just what this feels like to me, because there's no other logic to doing it whatsoever.
Yeah, very much like last year when it was the how many games can we get in, and the players were doing that like when and where or whatever that like not a slogan thing was. But so another thing then, Ty, just personally for you, do you like extra inning runner on second?
Love it.
You love it. Okay.
Yeah, I do. I hate 16 inning games. Like, they're useless. They provide no value in an 162 game season. Like, what I really like is it forces you to be extremely efficient with runners on second. So it makes bunting and small ball relevant again. It makes strategic decisions in those late innings important, and it makes you use your bullpen differently, which, as we've seen as Jays fans, causes a ton of issues. Which don't.
Good thing this isn't a bullpen episode. Good thing this isn't a bullpen episode.
Yeah, let's not get off onto that. But I like it because like in fantasy, I'm always a fan of rules that create more paths to victory, and I feel like that rule in extra innings does that.
Yeah, that's a fair take. For myself, I don't like it because I feel like it's hurting a pitcher who hasn't done anything to deserve that inherited runner on second. I know it's not an earned run, like statistically it doesn't hurt them, and I believe if they allow that runner in and the game is lost, they don't take the loss. That I'm not actually 100% sure on. I should definitely check.
I think they take the loss right now, but they might.
They do. Okay. Because that's the one thing that,
though.
Because they have lost the game, right? So you can't just have a pitcher who hasn't lost the game. A pitcher lost.
Well, someone has to lose it, right? Statistically, someone has to take the L.
So I'm just off on that, but maybe that's because I haven't had enough relief pitchers who have had that happen to them with that one guy. But anyway, I just feel like, to me, it's kind of like when the NHL did the 4-on-4 for overtime to start, and I think it's now 3-on-3, right? So it was just like, let's speed it up, let's get things over with 5 minutes, But then in the playoffs, you'll wipe it all clean, you'll go back. So that's one of those things where it's like, this is to end the game because people don't want the games, and that includes the players and the managers. They don't want the games going that long. So whereas for myself, I just don't like the idea of pitchers coming in and having that guy on second. But again, adapt or die, right? Very Moneyball here. So one of the things that we are going to do tonight before we get into those AAA dudes is we're going to do a question that we had from one of our listeners. So we thank you for that. And again, that was through a DM that I got, but please hit up at Dingers Pod on Twitter. The account is needing some action, needing to do some retweets, needing to take on your questions. A lot of direct messages, but I would prefer if all those DMs were just like out there in the Twitter ether so that we could answer them for you, because honestly, fantasy baseball Twitter sucks. And I don't find it to be an enjoyable place to engage with a lot of people. We certainly have people who are on the show with us that I enjoy their content and what they do, but that's because they're very specific to their lane. They're not doing the top 150 this or that, or top 10 of this position or that position 6 times a year. They are very intelligent baseball people, And it's hard to find very intelligent baseball people on baseball Twitter. So our account wants you to ask questions so that we can have those conversations with those intelligent people. So please hit us up for that. But this question, Ty, was, if you are starting a 15-team dynasty and you want to be competitive from year 1 to 3 at minimum, what's your roster going to look like? And here's the wrinkle. You can pick anybody. Teams can have the same roster. So it's basically just a slug out. Like, I can't remember exactly what the name of that format setting is where you can double it up. There are league settings through Fantrax, I know for sure. I'm not sure if Yahoo has it as well. They probably do. ESPN, CBS all have the option where you can just pick your best players, and then it's like a set it and forget it style league. But so what Ty and I are going to do is we're going to go through based on Dinger's rankings as far as like where these guys rank within us, which is our Dinger ranking is over the next 5 years. So the guys who we think are going to have the top production over the next 5 years, any little tweaks that we've seen through this year, and then we're just going to pick it. So the idea was 2 catchers for this league, and Ty and I immediately said, I hate it. We hate the idea of having to force you into play below average players, especially in fantasy. It's not beneficial to you or your league. If you have 2 catcher leagues, scrap them. NFBC, it's dumb. It's a dumb thing to do. I don't care. I know they play big money leagues. They got all this stuff. It's dumb to have 2 catchers because they don't do what everybody else does at every other position on average. So 30-second basemen are going to be far better in 5x5 categories than the top 30 catchers are. It's just not going to be competitive. So our idea was one of those catcher positions, we're just going to stream it. We're going to figure it out over the years. I had said to Ty, best case scenario, you might draft a guy or 2, prospect or 2, and then have them maybe come up. So it'd be somebody at, like the Joey Bart guy, who's kind of on the cusp. Shane Langoliers looks like he's doing good things with Atlanta. But Ty, if we're starting, are we good to go starting with catcher?
Sure. I think we should do it based on the round and move around the position. So let's who you would take in the first round. I think that's the way we got to do it, because if we do it by position, it's not going to impact draftability. So let's make sure we stick to that. So I'll give you the first pick. We're allowed to have the same guy, right? So that needs to be clear.
Yeah.
So who would you take with your very first pick? 3 years winning attitude. Go.
5x5 format. Nick Magic. No, it's Acuna.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go Vladdy for me, and I'm gonna base that solely on I'm gonna bet that the first baseman stays healthier than Acuna, and then Tatis would be the alternative for me in a 3-year window for value. So it's between those 3 guys. I think we can mostly agree on that. But for me, I'm gonna go with the guy that I think is the most likely to stay healthy based on his position.
Okay.
And that's as simple as that for me.
Okay. Well, if I'm going round 2, I'm going right back to the well with the outfielders, and I am taking Juan Soto because I am totally good with that. I think Soto's a beast, and the fact that he's missed time this year is just making it seem like he hasn't done all of the great things that he can do. And over the next 3 years, the start of this season, I mean, if we're counting 2021 or regardless, this is a blip for him, right? So who's your next dude?
I'm going to go an unpopular choice, but I think of really good premium options still, even though this year's sample is not necessarily the greatest example, is Mike Trout. Give me, again, I'm sticking with my flat rates here. I like to be really safe in the first couple of rounds, so I'm going to go with guys that give you base numbers, right? I know a lot of Mookie Betts owners that maybe picked him first overall this year are feeling the disproportionate value of selecting him first this year. You can't control injuries, but there are some inconsistencies in some players. So I know I'm not getting that with my first 2 picks, which is what I'm happy about.
Yeah, and it is certainly an off-putting thing for a lot of Dodger fans that he has not been able to just turn around, turn it on, make it happen. And I think that's what's leading to a lot of these people being upset. So for me, we do have corner infield, middle infielder, in addition to shortstop. But for my 3rd pick, I'm taking Trey Turner, which I know everybody, Trey Turner. And the reason that I'm not taking the other obvious choice in Tatis right away is that I might be able to take him later if I want. If I'm not permitted to take somebody this high up, that's okay. I'll find somebody else. But I feel like Turner has now turned the corner on injuries and he's just playing baseball. And when Turner's just playing baseball, I think he's damn good. And when Tatis is playing baseball and is healthy, I think he's damn good too. But I'm giving the edge to Turner over Tatis. Call me crazy.
No, I'm not going to do that. I think it's a reasonable selection. I think it is too late in this format. If we were thinking more proportionally, I don't think he'd be available at this point. So I think that's Turner, maybe unlikely, but maybe in a 15-teamer. I think if we look at where I would go from there, I'm going to assume that we're allowed to move position guys, and I'm going to hurt your feelings here, Robbie, and I'm going to take Ohtani off the board.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. So I'm just
I can still have him. That's the best part.
I'm just going to do it first. I'm just going to do it first.
Okay.
And therefore he's my guy, and you're second to the flagpole on that
one. So where do you want to put Ohtani? Do you want him to be SP1? There is a util spot, but I figured, we've got enough going on that we don't need a 2.5 hour episode to.
I'm going to slide him into SP1, making the assumption that over the next 2 years, he's going to have outfield eligibility. So
okay, perfect.
That's part of the strategy there for me.
That's your third round pick. So reasonably speaking, right? Like if I had 1-1 in the draft, and then I had 1-6, which would be the second pick, and Soto's not going to be there, just like Turner wouldn't be there logically. But because we were saying you could kind of pick whomever, I wanted to have a couple of those high guys because I think it's important, depending on where you're picking in your first round, to just make sure you're really like nailing that position. And I personally feel like outfield is the way to go. And I think, Ty, your Vlad Trout Ohtani is entirely possible to happen in a straight 15 scenario because Ohtani is getting overlooked still. And that's not that he hasn't done anything good. It's that where do you draft him next year? Yeah. Like, what do you do with Ohtani? And in Dynasty, I feel a little silly thinking I didn't want to take him that early, but I also didn't think I had to. I figured he would have been around for my 5th round pick. So I'm still going to wait around, which means I think he's in that 60-ish area. And I'm still going to wait around. And then I'm going to take somebody who, for me, is still a safe bet to just chug and get it done. And that's Freddie Freeman with Atlanta. He is 30 years old this year, which means he is still going to be in his prime, so to speak. And he is going to be my first baseman, traded from ATL or not. Freddie Freeman is my 4th round guy.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the shortstop position here. I'm going to trickle this down the draft a little bit. 15-teamer. I'm going to go with Bo Bichette. Like, I think people are going to be a little bit undervaluing Bo Bichette going into next season, even if he finishes strong. I do. Yeah, I think even if he keeps playing the way he has over the last 14 days or so, he's been pretty good. I think the power numbers are still going to scare people. And for those that watch Bo on a daily basis, there's incredible pop there, but he has absolutely forgot how to pull the ball in the early parts of this season. And so that's what I'm going to be looking for, is people to be undervaluing, because I think the OPS is going to be average as opposed to where it should be, which is elite. And I think that's where it'll be after this season. So I'm going to buy low what I think is going to be on Bichette moving forward.
Okay. So that's Bichette somewhere in the, 45 to 60-ish thing, which I know in Dynasty, the talk was early, especially early in the year. Oh, Bo's like top 20 guy now. But I think it's because Bo's early numbers and early power were really promising. And now the attrition is coming, right? Now is playing baseball. And then people start to kind of like wear back. And this is where those 1 year streamer dudes, the Scooter Jeanette's of the world, and the other guys start to kind of come up. And then it creates that little bit of difference. Like, well, Scooter Jeanette's not Bo Bichette, but Bo Bichette maybe isn't Trey Turner, Tatis. So now where is Bichette going to be? Well, Bichette's in that next class. And that's when you start to get all these wonky things. But at the end of the day, if you count all the numbers and then just average it out, Bichette's going to be right there in that top 5, I think, at the end of this year.
Yeah, but look at this, though. Like, so far this season, 283 averages, and it's an 8x8 league that I'm going to pull this from. He's 22, right? That's where he is today. 14 bombs. He has scored 57 runs already. He's on pace for like Mookie Betts runs totals here. So, like, and you can thank Vlad for that.
Right.
But he also has 9 stolen bases. He's easily going to eclipse 2020 this season, barring an injury, right? He's going to flirt with 30-30, right? So that number in that position has to go up. Like, he has a farther chance to go up than I think than the other shortstops will more likely come down. Look at a Corey Seager and a Turner. I don't think their value is going to be the same as Bichette's because of the age factor, right? So that's what I just like what I see from Bichette as a progression.
Okay. And for myself, I'm taking Ohtani here. So the 5th round for me. So yeah, somewhere 75. I don't know that he'll necessarily be there at 75, but that's where I'm going. That's my guy there. I know I was drafting him in the 140s everywhere this year, redraft wise. And that's just where I'm seeing it for me. So if Soto was able to slide to round 2 in my draft, then Ohtani can slide to 90.
Definitely. I'm going to jump back to the outfield for my next one. I'm going to go Yordan Alvarez in Houston. I think he is still just scratching the surface, and the power is elite. And I think the bat to ball skills are really underappreciated. I think a lot of people see a huge human being, and forget that he's arguably a top 10 bat to ball player in Major League Baseball. So I think that's one of those things that he's still just 23. Has the sky is the limit for this guy, and easily the most underappreciated superstar caliber player
Knees
that's
dependent.
out there right now. I agreed, but that's a blip, right? They did that as a precaution. He didn't even want to do it, right? He was forced to get that surgery.
Right.
He rejected the plausibility of it, and they made him do it. So, I think that for me, I'm more excited about him than anyone else on my roster because I think he's undervalued in so many formats right now.
Okay. Well, prior to the injury this week, I absolutely would have went with Glasnow, but I mean, realistically, a lot of these guys would already be gone. And we have yet outside of Ohtani to hit a just classic pitcher type. And what are the reasons? Like DeGrom, injury concerns, Garrett Cole, the rest of the guys, I'm just going to let other people own them. And if we can double up and have those guys, I still don't see the scenario why I would just list off all the top 1 or 2 guys at every dynasty position. If you want that information, listen back to the shows at the end of December that we did when we did all of our dynasty rankings. Check out RobbieBaseball.com if you want rankings. They'll get updated after the draft and All-Star break. So what are we, a month and change away from that happening? A little bit more. There's a time for all that stuff. But in the meantime here, I'm drafting me some Riley from Atlanta. I got him in around the 90 marker. I think the turnaround is real. I think the power is real being in that lineup, and he's batting further back. I think all these things are just good for him. And Austin Riley, that's my guy.
I love Austin Riley, as you know. That seems early for me right now. I think this time,
I don't think it will be.
I agree. Draft season, I think he'll be up because we'll have a little bit more sample, but in the current thing, I think you could have grabbed him a touch later, but I hear you. You're ahead of the curve. I'm with you on that one.
I'm going to check and see where he is right now, Ty, in 5x5.
Yeah, please do that. While you do that, I'm going to select another member of his team. I am going to go with Ian Anderson as a more traditional pitcher at this point for the same reasons that I went towards Trout and Vladdy off the start. Give me a guy that I know can continue to give me consistent innings. Right? If you're looking towards building a dynasty team, you need staples. And so we know Cole, we know DeGrom, as Rob said, stay away from them, a little injury risk. Like I'm very concerned about Garrett Cole without the sticky stuff. I don't think he's the same pitcher. I don't think he's bad, right? Listen, if you pump 101, you're still good. Right. But as we know, he gives up a lot of home runs. So if he's not burying those pitches like he was over the last 2 seasons, I have concerns about whether he's a top SP1 anymore, right? He's still a very good pitcher. He'll probably likely slot SP1, but I think he'll move back to what we saw in Houston when he arrived there, which is like flirting with greatness and having inconsistent patterns in his process. Still good, just not as good. So that's the big thing.
Okay, so Riley right now in 5x5 is 83. In 8x8, he's 103. So right in the mix at 90. I think, depending, right? And this is redraft. Like this is just this year. But generally speaking, I think Austin Riley is right in that heart. So moving to the next guy, I'm taking, this will be my ace of the staff, Julio Urias at 105 area, 7th round for me. And I like Julio. It's just that slow development, early career injuries. I think he's still playing this year at 23, 24. He is young. And over the next 3 years, this is just prime Julio, and I am down for it. And the ability to move Ohtani back and forth as I see fit also aids me in my pitching if needed, just like I've done in several other leagues, Dynasty and Redraft. I've used Ohtani where I can to start him when I need him, which he'll be doing tonight, and sit him where I'm not really interested and get that hitter out of him. League dependent, of course. Stupid Yahoo.
And we're kind of in a bit of a pitcher run here, so I'm going to stick on that, and I'm going to stay in Atlanta, and I'm going to pull Mike Soroka off the board.
I think we're doubling up.
I think that's a pick that a lot of people are forgetting about at this moment in time. He's due back end of June, beginning of July, I think is what they were thinking. I think they're going to probably be more cautious in that. I don't think we'll see him till towards the end of July is what I would expect.
No point in rushing him if you're kicking around, right? You want him for the stretch driving into the playoffs.
They need to go pick up a mediocre starting pitcher, which, I mean, every team in baseball needs a mediocre starting pitcher right now. But
they could get Ross Stripling, but he's likely to yell at his third baseman.
You know what? I love that, honestly.
I thought that was fine. Panic made a stupid move. One just picked it up when he had time to glove it. And then, of course, Stripling apologized and did what he was supposed to do. That was fine, too. But just, to your point of needing a mediocre starting pitcher, that's the kind of poison Toronto might not want in the organization anymore. He said one thing. He did one thing wrong, and now he's gone. Not allowed to be a player anymore.
We're not allowed to criticize the thousands of base running and fielding mistakes in the outfield, but, one time a pitcher says something. Anyway.
Or those RPs blowing it over and over.
Point is, Soroka's underappreciated right now.
And he'll finish the year underappreciated, Ty. He's not going to get the innings, right?
That's a good point. Yeah, you're right there. So I like that one. I think it's a sneaky one, and I don't think he should be available at this point in the 15-team draft, but I think he will be because of what you just mentioned.
Yeah, I think he is going to be there. So for me, it's right around the 120 marker. I think he is going to be there, and this is the exact reason why people are going to look at year-round wrap-up. Even if he comes back this year and is okay, he's still going to slide back into that 120 area. But if he comes back and he's like elite, electric, whatever, he's going to get the Sixto Sanchez hype, and he's going to be like a top 15 SP heading into next year. And part of that is because a lot of the guys inside most top 15s, Blake Snell, Luis Castillo, Strasburg, have all had poor turns. Glasnow now with the injury. Lucas Giolito has shown that he's, a human being, not just an ace of aces. And then Jose Barrios recoiling back a bit. A lot of those guys are all going to shuffle back. So there's room for other people to move up, but it's not happening at the rate that everybody thinks it is because players like Soroka who are injured are not able to just go and supplant them. Yeah. So a lot of that's just going to be murky water for next year, which is good for value. Certainly good for value. So Ty, who you got next up?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the outfield, and I am going to go to Randy Arozarena. Need to work on my defense, so I'll get a good defender. No, just all kidding aside. I think the we're seeing a little recoil from him, but still with good value. But I think he's becoming a hitter, right? Which is what I've liked from what I've seen this year. We saw a lot of wild swings last year. He was all over the pitchers in the playoffs. He struggled here and there with some strikeout numbers. Tampa Bay leads the league in strikeouts right now. And Arozarena is definitely part of that. So I do think he will take that step forward because he's having a flatter sophomore slump, if you will. So I like the chances for him to be hugely valuable over the next 3 years.
All right. Well, I am taking my first shot right here, Ty, and I am taking Joe Adell, the Dingers 15th ranked overall outfielder. Not prospect, because not prospect anymore. And that is these foggy glasses are making it hard. My 9th round pick. So that's going to put him around 135.
I just can't believe you took Joe Adell before even mentioning the Seattle Mariners. Like that just is so hard for me to hear.
Well, just wait.
Or Patrick Sandoval hasn't come up yet either.
Okay, so those later. That's how I fill out the roster. Fill out the roster with the guys I'm comfortable with. But right now, I think it's important to look to the future. And if we're drafting today, Joe Adell has not yet been able to skyrocket up those rankings for other people. But we still said at the start of the year, like, I know it didn't go well last year. I know it didn't look good, but it's baseball and it takes time. And I think getting Adell somewhere around 135 in a dynasty will be a steal. Will be a steal.
I agree. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But I was going to pick him here, but I'll stay away from him because you beat me.
I doubled up because I really liked your Soroka. I didn't want to do that to you.
I just want to give some other hype to some other guys just so we don't get too clean.
Repetitive?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Trey Mancini. I think this is a guy that I love Trey Mancini.
Yeah.
This is a guy
Forgotten
that's
soldier.
totally underappreciated. He was underappreciated before the bout with cancer. He's underappreciated after the bout. He'll be underappreciated when he's straight at the trade deadline. So, he's still just 28. He's in the middle of his prime. And when you're trying to win in a 3-year window, you need to balance that out. It's really easy in Dynasty. And we've seen this over several leagues that we're in, Robbie. People come out of the gate and they go, all right, I need all the 20-year-olds.
Yep.
Well, listen, these 28-year-olds are really good at baseball. And guess what? They're going to get the lion's share of at bats. So if you really want to win early, yeah, cool. Tatis is fantastic, but you need Trey Mancini's to win. So I like this. You can kind of see again. I live in this middle place. You know that, Robbie. You play in enough leagues with me to know how I like to build my teams. I like to find these guys that are just what you're getting.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you on that one. And I'm curious now, Ty, tell me if you think that this is not reasonable right now, but I feel like the value has not yet developed to this point that I can't. Can I pick Jared Walsh? Can I pick him around the 150 mark, or is that not acceptable?
You think it's too early?
I think it's too late.
No,
I
don't think
150.
So.
150.
No,
He's got 1 year and change of success, right?
I think we're in too many deep leagues, and we're not appreciating the depth of a 15-team league and the knowledge base as well in some cases. So I think the reality is Jared Walsh would be available in a lot of formats.
Okay, so I'm gonna put him in. He's my corner infielder. Freeman's my starter, and then I've got Walsh with LA. He is my 10th round pick, so that's right around the 150 mark.
Ronnie disagrees heavily with our belief that he would be available here.
Walsh, yeah. Which, as a Walsh owner in a 30-team league, you're proving Ty's point that he would not be there. But that's why I was asking if that's not a logical pick. That's okay. That's one that I'm out on, and we're picking based on right now, which is early season success for him after coming up last year and definitely overperforming. Overperforming.
So Ronnie did add a second comment. I won't put it up, but he did say that he meant the other way, that he would be available. So you have been confirmed that this is an okay pick by Roto Ronnie. So thank you, Ronnie. So Ronnie's like the comment mafia. He's like, I don't know, you do this.
I don't like it. I don't like it. What do you think? Is that a pick? No. That was all. I almost Borated that. I saw.
I didn't know where you're going with it, but I see you.
All right. So who's your 10th round pick? If I'm taking Walsh at 150, who are you at in the 150?
I'm gonna get in at third base, and for me, third base might be the hardest position to pick here.
Yeah.
I really don't know exactly where I want to go, but I definitely I'm gonna go on an edge here. A lot of people wouldn't go with this guy yet, but Ke'Bryan Hayes. I think.
Oh, he's not gonna be there.
Yeah, he is.
No way he's there.
He shouldn't be. The injury is going to put him back, right?
Okay.
So if Jared Walsh is available, Ke'Bryan Hayes, because of the injury, is definitely going to be available.
That's okay. Slippery slope, but I don't think he will be there because too many people are high as a kite on him, and just him not playing, I think hasn't tarnished him. Whereas it seems like every other person that's played it hasn't hit 400 has been tarnished. You know what I mean? Yeah. And also, there's no way on this episode that we are getting to the minor league guys. So I feel like we should just enjoy this moment, and then maybe we can second episode for the minor league dudes.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, because it's going to be too long. But
it's a good
this
question,
is fun.
Though.
Yeah,
yeah,
this is fun to do.
Yeah. So I picked Hayes. I'm starting to fill out the roster a little bit. Where are you going next pick?
So I'm going to assume at this point in time, no one inside the top 40 starting pitchers will be left when we get into 100 and pick 165. Now you might think that seems a little off, that there would be more pitchers gone, but as we know through prospecting, everyone is suppressing pitching at a ridiculous rate. There are very few, if any, lists beyond my own and possibly Ty's that even have 3 out of 10 spots for pitchers. So that means 30 or more starting pitchers inside a top 100. We know lists now. What's his nuts from Fantrax has said he doesn't have any inside his top 25 or something like that. It's the first time as a prospect guy he's never had that inside. Well, Eric Cross, and this is not to throw shade at Eric Cross. This is simply to say that if Eric Cross is saying, well, I'm not going to do that with any of my prospects because I don't think that that's the thing. then everyone is also going to start to recoil. Not that he is the leader, he is one of the leaders within rankings. And when you talk prospects, MLB people and others start to think, well, that's true, right? The production, the this, that, the suppress. And everything this year was all about be careful with pitchers because we don't know how their bodies are going to react. And now we're just seeing bodies on the floor. We need that. Let the bodies hit the floor. Let the bodies hit the. We need that song because that's what's happening all across baseball. So I feel like only 40-ish pitchers might actually be gone at this point because everyone's going to go. You're going to in that 15-team league. You're going to have 2 or 3 guys who are drafting for like the year 2028, and they're drafting all these guys that nobody knows who the heck they are, or all the guys who just get drafted in the upcoming June amateur draft and beyond. Just a lot of bad picks are going to happen. But saying the top 40 SPs are gone doesn't completely screw you over because I'm going based off of our preseason list. And to me, the next guy up is Aaron Savale. That's who I'm going for. 165 overall. I think that Ty's not a big fan of Savale. I'm liking what I'm seeing. We've seen a 10K game out of him now. I've got this fun, interesting rotation. Urias, Soroka, Savale. If I need him, Ohtani. I'm liking this.
Yeah, I can't get on board with Savale. Like we beat that to death in the offseason. I won't bore anybody with that one anymore. But I'm gonna go with a pick that is inside the top 40, but I don't think will be come draft season. But in a 3-year window, huge value, and that's Dustin May. I think is a guy. He's definitely not going to be in there.
Yeah, so, I agree with that. That's a good pick.
So I'm going to take him here, and I'm going to wait for him to get healthy in the middle of the summer next year.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty sneaky pick there. And that's one of the things I was going to look at later on was, do I want to try to dabble with some of the injury guys when I get beyond the top 70 kind of starting pitchers? Like, where do I want to go with that? But again, I have no problem just like getting my outfielders, getting the guys that I want. And if we're somewhere now, we're going to be where we north 180. Is that about where we're going to be here? I just had my 11th round pick was 165. So yeah, I'm picking right around 180. Probably the top 50 outfielders are gone. I think that's fair to say. And within that, we are including the Julio Rodriguez of the world, the Christian Paches, Mickey Moniak, Helio Ramos, David Dahl, like all the prospects, all the, guys who were supposed to come back and do good things. Tyler O'Neill will now be in that top 50 outfielder.
Been in there before, but
sure. But we also had Jesse Winker ranked further back because the split issue is no longer an issue. Anyway,
yes,
I'm taking.
We're just ignoring it. It's still an issue.
Okay, fine. Well, for me, it's not, but I'm taking Mitch Haniger because everyone's going to say Mitch Haniger had himself a year, the end. He'll be 30 next year, and that's the end of Mitch Haniger. I think Mitch Haniger is still going to be able to kick around and be a Michael Brantley type guy. So I'm liking me some Haniger at 180. If he's not there, that's fine. I'll deal with it in the next, but that's my 12th round pick.
Yeah, I'm going to stay away from the outfield a little bit because I just don't like it. I'm going to try to finish off my pitching, and I'm going to go with Logan Gilbert, who it should be gone.
Nice.
If he can, it should be ahead of this pick if he continues on the path he's on today, right? So like the last couple starts have been exactly what we wanted to see out of Logan Gilbert, but didn't get out of the gate. So I think if he blows through that door the rest of the season, he has to go higher than this pick. But, as we know, rookie pitchers tend to fade.
Yeah. And I was going to say, and at this moment in time, I don't think it's a terrible decision to say you're going to, if you are dynasty roto guy, you are going to stay away from the guy who might only have 100 MLB innings and they don't look great because you're looking at the end of the year numbers and you're forgetting about the fact that he didn't start strong. So you're kind of going past that. I really want to take a fun off the wall pick, but I'm not going to. I've got 2 possible first base guys that I wanted to deal with.
You can't lead with I want to be fun, but I'm not going to be. That just makes you not fun.
Well, I know. So what I want to do is I want to pick a guy that I believe is game changer, but I don't need to pick him now. I don't need to pick him this early. But what I am going to do is I'm going to take Minnesota's Aaron Sabato. That's a guy who I'm going to take. Yep. That's a guy who I'm going to take. Now, what I need to do, Ty, is I need to find somewhere to play him. And it doesn't look like I necessarily have a spot for him now. So Sabato's got to be a bench guy for me, which is, not ideal this early on. But I just think that he's the kind of guy who, if I'm reaching out on a rookie, he's where I would take about 195. We are for picks deep here. So we're starting to get a little bit further back. And this is one of those reaches where I'm really trying to solidify a position I see a lot of weakness in, which is corner infield. First base, third base. I want to have my guys. It's really hard right now to trade for first baseman, really hard to trade for third baseman. If you don't have one, you're crossing your fingers that one of your other players gets eligibility there. So I am trying to curve that right now by just getting a guy, right? So I've got Freeman, I've got Walsh, I've got Sabato. I'm good. Sorry. And I've got Riley as a third base option. I'm good. I feel confident now I can move forward.
I am a staunch Sabato supporter, as you know, Robbie. And part of this could be you just might be drafting him to then trade him to me at some point.
Well, you could have them. That's the problem, right? We could both have the same guys.
But, I would say this is a touch early for me. I get it. It's a dynasty league. You want to get locked in. I appreciate all of it. I would just say 2 rounds later, maybe for me, for Sabato, I think would be okay. Where I would like to see him.
I just think Casas is going to be gone. Kirilloff will be gone. Like a lot of those guys will be gone. The guy that I was thinking of, and I'll just say him now that I think it was Mason Martin with Pittsburgh. I thought that he would be a really fun pick to kind of, but again, I don't need to get him this early, and I'm not building my bench right now. So, and as we know, Ryan Mountcastle, who is one of the top 5 Dinger ranked prospects, he will be long gone. Long gone by this point in time. So I'm trying to dial back and think, where do I really fill out my roster that I'll be happy over 3 years? Yeah. And Sabato, I think, is going to be able to come in at that tail end and keep the push.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily disagree with the logic. Like I said, for me, I would have waited, but to each their own. And there's always going to be this in your leagues, guys. Like, anyone listening, like that's always going to happen. People are going to take their people, right? They're going to go earlier. Like I probably
just wait till my next pick. Let's talk about take your people.
Yeah, I probably could have waited two rounds on Ian Anderson, but I wanted him, and I wanted him early because I wanted to secure that. So, definitely something to look at. I'm going to stay on the pitching side. I'm going to go with Hyun-Jin Ryu. I think we're still going to get 3 good seasons out of him.
That's late, dude.
I think you're going to see the fade on him because of the off-speed stuff. Like, okay. I think that's the mentality. I think it's going to be one of those things where it fades on him, and I think he's going to be available, especially because we've seen some flaws here this season, right? But the inconsistency of being on the road 24/7, 365, I think is an underappreciated piece of the puzzle. Like, he's away from his family, all that other stuff is impacting him.
A big part of his deal was the fact that he was going to be able to have his family in Toronto with him, and they were there for the press conference and all that fun stuff. And that we're in year 2 of not being able to play in Toronto, not being able to base out of Toronto. And again, actually, that Buffalo last year, Dunedin to start the year, back in Buffalo this year, and then next year will be the 4th time in 3 years, and hopefully next year, no questions asked, it'll be Toronto, and we'll be good to go. So my 14th round pick, right? That's where we are. Yeah. 13th was Sabato. 12 was Haniger. Yeah. So 14th round pick, Ty. I'm taking Ha-Seong Kim. I don't care. 210th overall in the dynasty. I'm not missing him. Like you just said about getting your guy. I think there are some underlying things where Kim can just start to rise up. He's going to be on the major league roster, and he should just be kicking around, getting some playing time. Kim's the guy, sue me.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, we all have those love letters we write. It is what it is, right? I'm trying desperately to decide who I want to plug in as my 5th outfielder, and I'm struggling. I'm not going to lie to you. So I'm going to start to fill a little bit of the future, and I'm going to go with JJ Bleday is going to be the guy that I just try to clean up some of that outfield, because I think, like you mentioned with the corner, I think the outfield is facing some similar depth issue. There's lots of talent in the pipeline, but there's no guarantee any of those are going to be major leaguers, right? Including JJ Bleday. So I'm just going to start to fill out that depth a little bit for the same reasons you were doing the corner.
Yeah, that's good. So I'm going back now. Tell me if I'm wrong here, Ty. 175th overall. I'm taking Nick Madrigal. I was able to get him in a couple of startup dynasty mocks that I did this offseason in the 120 area, and I was told, ooh, that's a good pick. Now Madrigal's hurt, out for the rest of the year. 1 steal on the year, good average. The OPS was a lot higher than people thought it was going to be. I think it was 745 is where he finished this year at, because he's now gone for the year and out of our minds. So I think he should still be kicking around at 175. And maybe if he's not, I could have got him in the 14th round. Sorry, I said 175. I meant 225. I'm off. But anyway, yeah, thank you. But what I meant was I could have got Kim in this spot and Madrigal earlier if you thought. But regardless, I just feel like Madrigal is going to be forgotten because he didn't have the numbers for this year. And this was supposed to be a real year for him to kind of like put up that 60, 70 RBI area and be an 80 run guy. And in my mind, he was going to get a lot of steals, but La Russa decided no steals for you. So anyway, that's my 15th rounder. Who you got?
Well, I think I gotta fill out second base, and I'm gonna try to take a shot here. Somebody that it's hard to even say who's going to be available here,
Right.
because we are a little deep in this draft. So trying to find a guy that's going to be there, next season in a starting role is really what I would like to try and target. Like Jazz Chisholm's definitely going to be gone at this point. Would be a guy that I would like
Definitely
to slide
gone.
in there.
I wonder if Chisholm would be even a top 65 pick now. I think he's shown enough, right?
It depends on the home run total. Home run total is going to dictate that, in my opinion.
Okay.
Because I think that's the thing everyone was always concerned with for him, was whether he would have the power numbers to go with some of the other tools. I'm going to bet on a Garrett Hampson slide back / trade, right? So I think he's going to end up either playing somewhere on that middle infield, because we know Trevor Story's gone, right? So I think the reality is Rogers is showing like, hey, I might be able to play at the major league level. As we speak, Hampson, we know, can play at the major league level. Everyone believes that except for Colorado front office for some reason. So, that's a guy that I think should be drafted earlier, but I think because of the way he's being treated by the Rockies, I think he's going to be available at later in drafts next season.
Okay. All right. So I've got it 16th. Robbie Ray. I'm really enjoying what he's doing this year. He certainly could be poised for huge jumps in Dynasty. But at the same time, Robbie Ray is no spring chicken. He is very much Patrick Corbin-y, and he will be 29 next year. So I don't know if he's going to slip back this far. And if he doesn't, that's fine. I'll take Daniel Lynch. So give me one of those two guys. One of those two guys is not going to have the value of others. Now, Daniel Lynch, obviously, like just brutal 3 starts right now. And when we get into what's going on at AAA and other things, that's a conversation for another day. But I think I'm safe to say Robbie Ray will be kicking around Dynasty around the 240 pick. If I'm wrong, Daniel Lynch should be there in and around that marker for me.
Yeah, don't hate that pick. I'm going to go to the bullpen because I think we have to at some point here.
Eventually.
I'm going to go with Pete Fairbanks as an early pick, but I think there's going to be some guys off the board by this point. So I'm going a little bit further down the list than I think would be reasonable to take at this point. But Pete Fairbanks is just getting it done. He's going to be available later than he should be in every format. So I'm going to take him here.
Okay, I don't mind that. I'm just trying to look here. I'm trying to go north of 130 in our Dynasty picks. And you know who was 130th in our Dynasty rankings, Ty? Jeff Hoffman.
I do.
Jeff
Hoffman. And I actually circled that saying Rob's pick.
Yeah, and looking at 141 is Brent Honeywell Jr.
It just glossed over 133, eh?
Tyler Beede, he's on his way back. Tyler Beede is on his way back, and he's pitching at AAA. He's rehabbing it up. But I'm gonna, he's still. I could take him a lot later, and I could take our 154th overall guy, Patrick Sandoval. But again, I can wait. And because we're talking Dynasty, people are going to go up like Emerson Hancock. He's going to be gone. Essentially, any rookie top 50 starting pitcher is going to be gone once you hit the 250 kind of mark of your draft. It's going to be a lot harder. It's going to be down to those production guys, the guys who actually win you the leagues. And I'm looking here to see exactly what I need, Ty. And it looks to me like it's outfield and some peripheral starting pitching. That's my big thing. So my final outfielder, and it hurts because I've got a lot of guys who I think are better, who will be better than they are set up to be right now. Alexander Canario will be gone. San Francisco's power batting 19-year-old, 20-year-old.
I don't know that he is in a 15-team format. Like, not yet. I think that's too early for Canario to be gone.
He's right around a top 100 prospect preseason, and then just alone, not for his own improvements or potential regressions. Very much like Edward Olivares, who's ranked 84th for us. They just move up. They move up because guys graduate those lists.
I will say this, though. If Canario was gone at this point in the draft, I'm taking people's money in year one.
Okay. So what I was going to do here, because this is a fun thing for me, is I was going to take our 102 ranked outfielder who's having himself a nice run right now with Seattle, and that's Jake Fraley. And I'm taking Jake Fraley in this sense simply because he is my 5th outfielder. I have only one other potential project guy, and that is in Joe Adell. I have Acuna and Soto who are just going to mash the crap out of it for me. Haniger, I have full belief is going to do the same, and Adell could be right up there with Acuna and Soto within 20% of their production, which means I could have an elite league leading offense. And depending on league settings, Austin Riley could also qualify for outfield. And that allows me to take a chance on a guy like Jake Fraley, who maybe it's high in the 255 range, but I don't think it is. I don't think it is. And again, if Daniel Lynch is kicking around at this 17th round pick because Robbie Ray was freed up for me in the 16th round, instead of making this pick at 270 for Fraley, at 255 for Fraley, I could be getting Daniel Lynch right here. So I'm calling Fraley my 17th, 18th pick. So somewhere between 255 and 270.
Well, and I'm going to go with a pick that could be one of two things for me. It's on the pitching side. It's going to be Shane McClanahan. And this is a guy that I'm drafting for the purposes of the flexibility I think I'm going to get out of him. So he could be an SP4, SP3 even for me. He could also be an elite closer. So I think he's going to be one of those two things in the next 3 years. And I like him this late in the draft for that exact reason.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he would be picked up or not. But regardless, I don't think that's a bad thing. And then what I'm going to do here, because it hasn't yet happened, Ty, I'm with everybody waking up, I'm taking Patrick Sandoval. He's my last pick. He's my SP5. If Daniel Lynch is gone, or if between Ray and Lynch I get one of them, that means I take Fraley with my last pick, and then this 18th round pick for me, because what I'm going to do beyond this is essentially punt on the catcher, which we talked about before, but I am 100% punt on RPs.
Yeah.
So I am just going to figure it out as I go. And if it's a save only league too, which I'm assuming it is, I'm just going to look for ratio guys that might be pitching in the 7th and 8th innings if all those closers are gone. And that might be a strategy that really hurts me in the first year. Even though I'm trying to compete, I'm going to be able to pick up guys as we go. Because I don't think it's key to hit all of your categories. I think that's a huge flaw, because if you're trying to get saves, if you're trying to get home runs, if you're trying to get average, as soon as some of the guys you're banking on for those are gone, especially if it's a category like saves, you are in real trouble. You know, if you put a lot of marbles in 3 guys to hit you 120 home runs and one of those guys gets hurt, you are asking a lot of the other 2 to have career years to just, get you into contention there. But if you're doing the same thing with saves, you're just asking for trouble, right? Like we can all have the conversation about how we drafted 3 closers and 2 of them lost their job by the end of April. So for me in a dynasty format, I'm not going to put the weight into it that I used to. I'm going to let those guys come to me through ratios.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to try to get back onto the corner, and I think a guy that's lost a lot of luster and a lot of circles. And I'm playing the reality of how many guys are going to be off the board here at this point.
Yeah.
And I think third base is going to be the one that still has some depth to it. I'm going to go with Josh Jung, because I think he's a guy that has upside, but has slipped just a little bit in a lot of lists out there. So I think he'd still be kind of borderline available at this point. So I'm going to give him the shot because I need to fill that out.
Okay, so for me in this position where I talked about punting on catcher position and sorting out my RPs, I'm going to look for that draftable catcher. So we're in and around 300 realm. So you can assume, Adley Rutschman went in the top 5 probably to some knob who didn't understand what was going on, because that happens. And it happened in every dynasty league where someone took Adley Rutschman in the top 5 of a draft. Ridiculous. But we've also got guys like Sam Huff, Joey Bart. I guess Dalton Varsho is going to be off. He's not going to be a rookie regardless. Ivan Herrera is going to be gone. Kirk won't be a rookie anymore. Kyber Ruiz, I think the shine has kind of come off of him. William Contreras with Atlanta is up and getting his shot. But I'm going to say Kyber Ruiz. I'm going to take him because he's right at the cusp. And he's one of those guys with the Dodgers who could just catch fire. Will Smith takes a tip off somewhere that doesn't sound good, doesn't feel good, and all of a sudden he's getting 50-50 playing time. And that could be all that he needs in order to really catch fire for himself. So Kyber Ruiz is that guy for me. Now, if he's gone, next random catcher prospect guy will be up for me. But I think it's pretty safe to say that a catcher around 300, a prospect catcher around 300 is going to be there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think a lot of catchers are still going to be there in this format, to be honest.
Yeah, like you can always wait till the end. Well, 2 catchers, though. That's the thing, Ty. This is supposed to be 2 catchers.
I still think there's going to be lots of major leaguers available because I think in the 2-catcher format, a lot of people are going to go after the Joey Barts and the Kirks and the young guys first. So I do think
Especially
you're
because
gonna
they
see-
can, because we could technically both have them. So that's another good point. You could
Yeah,
technically both have them.
And I will let Ronnie announce my pick because this is who I was going to pick. Is William Contreras. So that's actually who I'm going with. Thank you, Ronnie. Because I agree. I think he's the guy that's already there, but I think is forgotten, and he's going to give you middle of the road statistics, and that's what you're going to get at this point, and that's what I like. He might be on the path to being my new Yadi Molina.
Okay. Well, Ivan Herrera, who could very well be the next St. Louis Yadi Molina, could also be kicking around. And then there's Andrew Kinzer would be another option that would be there. So at this point, Ty, it looks like we've kind of filled it all out here. Like, what do you have left? You've got a middle infielder, unless I forgot. Wait, did you took who'd you take from Colorado?
I took Hampson. He's in my 2B slot.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I missed the round for him and Jung. Sorry. I've been half paying attention because I've been putting in
okay.
my
I need to fill out a utility spot and a middle infield spot.
Okay, so you've got two left. So that means that I can take Victor Gonzalez with the Dodgers, who I think is a next man up closer for them, and that's going to be my first RP.
Yeah, so I got to go into the depth of the shortstop position here.
And that's my 300th pick. So in a dynasty, I'm assuming Victor Gonzalez is just going to be able to be amazing, and that's why we're going this late, because this is also an easy pick to swap out depending on how your draft is going, right? There's no point in, for me, as much as I like Brad Hand and the fact that he just collects saves, there's no point in going and getting him aggressively early on. He is definitely somebody you can be trading for in season with some of the prospects you pick up later in drafts. And because I trust in my ability to find value late in drafts, I have no concerns with getting a whole bunch of my boring type lineup dudes early, and then getting my prospects that everyone's kind of shaking their head at. And then 2 years into the league, those are the guys who are like Aaron Savale, Mitch Haniger, who have just like appeared and they're now regular MLBers.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a guy that you turned me on to that I think very few people are actually even remotely paying attention to.
Oh, I'm listening.
That I think would be available is Jeremiah Jackson. I think he's going to slide. And in a 15-team league, I think he would be very available. And as you've kind of alluded to, we've talked about on previous shows, I think he's going to be up next season. So I'm going to slide Jeremiah Jackson into this spot here.
All right. So I've got a second RP type bench, something or other spot. And we're just going to assume, right? Like, Devin Williams, he's had a terrible year. Things have gone awry for him. I think Devin Williams can still rebound. I think Devin Williams can still be a guy. We've seen it before where pitchers RPs look like they've lost it, but then they get it back. I think he could be one of those guys who a lot of people are just going to be like, yeah, I got burned on him and I'm off. So at 315, that's going to be my last pick. I'm taking Devin Williams. And when Josh Hader gets traded, I am the smartest man in the room, because I will then have Devin Williams and the potential for 70 wins, which is what Milwaukee's going to end up with.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm going to stick with the 15-team logic. And I think this guy, there's no way at all possible that he should be available here, given what we've talked about. But I think he could be in a 15-team format, as long as it's not a Northeastern fan base. It's Tristan Casas. I think is a guy that's still grossly underappreciated in every format. And is starting to show signs. Should be. Yeah, but you keep saying that as if we're in a 30-teamer. Like 15 team. No. Major league talent is going to be drafted right in this format. So like you're looking at it from a startup of a 30-teamer. These guys should be picked up and will be picked up, but I don't believe he's going to be picked up in a 15-team. So you can call me out on it if you want, but I very much believe he should be available.
I think Tristan Casas would be a top 100 dynasty guy. As odd as that sounds,
but not in 15. You have 15. It gets overruled by guys that are actually playing Major League Baseball. It has to.
I don't think it does. Unfortunately, I don't think it does, because people are just so hard up,
which
for
is
prospects, and that's why I took Sabato at 13, because I was like, guys like Casas are gone, and now you're trying to say 8 rounds later, Casas is going to be there. saying no way Jose's, but that's fine. You can take him. It's fine. We're not playing this
but
out.
it's fine. If it does go that way in an actual draft, I would switch out and I would have Heimer Candelario and I will win the league.
Okay. There you
Right.
go.
So like I'm that's what I was saying
Win the
earlier.
league.
Like if these kind of guys aren't available, I'm winning money. Like go running away.
Okay, so Ty, your starting lineup is William Contreras with Atlanta. He's your catcher. First base is Vlad. Garrett Hampson is your second baseman. Your corner infielder is a prospect in Josh Jung with Texas. Then you've got Bo as your shortstop. You've got a prospect in Jeremiah Jackson with the Angels as your middle infielder. So if there's an issue with your team, it's obvious early on. It is middle infield, which can definitely be corrected in season in a 15-team league. No freaking problem with that. Ke'Bryan Hayes is your third baseman. So you are pretty good on the corners with Vlad and Hayes. You know, I think anybody in Dynasty would be happy with that, no matter the league size. And Casas, sure. Then we get to the outfield: Trout, Arizarena, Mancini, Blade, and Alvarez. So one prospect yet to be promoted in Blade. Easy to find that fifth outfielder. Alvarez could easily become a utility if you're able to find value elsewhere. And Mancini is probably first base as well if needed. And then your rotation, which looks interesting. Definitely this is where you're finding more value, is Ohtani, Anderson, Soroka, May, Gilbert. So that would be the trouble area for me if I'm saying competing next year. That's where you're going to have to make a lot more. The rest of your bench, because we're going to have 10-man bench here, that's going to have to be a lot of experienced pitchers that get it done. So then you've got Fairbanks and McClanahan as later round picks. Now McClanahan also starting pitcher capable for sure in that. Moving to my roster, Kyber Ruiz is my prospecty catcher on the cusp. Then I've got Freeman, Madrigal back from injury, Jared Walsh as my corner infielder, Trey Turner knocking the snot out of balls at shortstop, middle infielder Ha-Seong Kim on a major rebound, Austin Riley at third base, with my outfield being Acuna, Soto, Adele, Haniger, and Jake Fraley. Now, if through this draft magic I'm not able to get all of these guys, it's going to be okay because there's a lot of good talent here. This is the team I've picked. I've got my ace/util in Ohtani. Then I've got Urias, Soroka, Savale, Robbie Ray, Daniel Lynch, Patrick Sandoval as my rotation. Sabato is a bench bat that I do have. Victor Gonzalez and Devin Williams will be the start of my 3-year rotation. I like where I'm sitting today with 9 picks left for me, and I think 10 picks left for you, Ty, because I do have Sabato as a bench guy already for me. So I like that. I think that's good. That's an interesting 3-year, and that's going by the 5x5 with spreading it out. So hopefully that was helpful to the person that asked the question and gives you a good idea. The goal for me at no point in time in Dynasty is to reset my roster to the extent that I have to go through a prolonged period where I'm not competitive. One of the things I hate to do is to have a season where I am below 500. Because if you can aim at 500, you can get a break here or there, and all of a sudden you are in competition down the stretch and you get a promotion, or a couple guys do things that you weren't sure they were going to be able to do. And boom, you are right there in the thick of it. And if it's points leagues, you can use a little bit more math because you're just worrying about point per game totals and things like that. But in Roto, I mean, there's speed in my lineup, there's power in my lineup, there's strikeouts in my lineup. I've got everything that I'm looking for in a 5x5, and I see the same things coming from ties. The prospect versus proven is going to be all down to the bench, right? You basically put your prospects as your bench guys, and then you pick up the Josh Harrisons of the world. You pick up everybody that's streamable. If you're just going to do Sunday Night Fab in your league, things of that nature, there's always talent available, right? Always talent available. So there's no point to me in investing heavy in high turnover things like RPs and catchers where the value can be picked up in season. Same thing with middle infielder, right? Like Ty not going too hard with proven guys. Like, yes, Garrett Hampson is an MLBer, but he's just not like, he's not getting at bats all the time. Josh Jung is a corner infield, hasn't got to go up yet. Hayes is young in his career. Jeremiah Jackson yet to prove himself. Those are easy guys to fill out with the rest of those picks.
And the other thing to mention, Robbie, too, to kind of bring us home, is just if you're in a 3-year window to win, don't get lost in prospects.
Oh,
right?
no,
I think that's the thing, right? Like, you know, I almost exclusively draft AA and above in dynasty startups, right? I very rarely go to the long tail because there's so much unproven stuff behind that. And, the middle infield will always be replenished, always, whether they turn into shortstops or center fielders or second baseman. You will always get that being the main artery of talent coming up through the minors. So if you build that base that way as well, or leave that as the room for improvement, that's a great pathway to success. But this is a good drill. It's good to go through it every now and then and try to think about it. I like to think about it on the fly because I wasn't as prepared as you were, knowing the question we were going through tonight.
Well, I intentionally, though, Ty, didn't set it up. All I knew was that we were going to talk about it, and I wanted to figure out how we were going to do it, simply because, like you said, I enjoyed the process of going through, okay, so who's going to be a guy north of 250?
Well,
that's
and
reasonable.
It's a format that you and I don't play a lot, right? I think that's the important thing too. Like, you and I don't play 15 teamers that often, which is why we debated who would be available so much.
Right. Yeah.
It's not really our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
But it was a fun drill. I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, well, and for anybody else that's interested in fun things like that, we do have our dynasty rankings. We did the episodes of them back in December, so excuse me, you can go all the way back and you'll be able to see who we had ranked. And if you're willing to do it, if you're willing to go back through those archived episodes, you will also be able to say, hey, you were way off on this guy and that guy, and then we get to tell you it's based on 5-year ranking. So we are about to be at the 10% mark of that 5-year ranking, which is really fun to say to people who get all bent out of shape on prospect rankings and things like that. When you say, well, like, we do ours based on 5 years. So somebody who's not going to be up for 2 years, there's no point in putting them inside the top, 10 of a position or this or that, because there are all these other dudes. And when we do get around to talking about a lot of the guys on the cusp in the next episode, that's exactly what we're going to cover, is the guys who are preventing these younger guys from getting their shot because these other dudes are performing.
Well, and we'll talk about a lot of guys that you can pick up this Sunday on the live stream. Let's Get Fabulous. So feel free to join us for that, giving Robbie appropriate amount of time to
get another hat.
The old cap on here. I don't know why we got blank screen, but
perfect.
I don't know what's going on. We got blank screen though. This is interesting. There we go.
Perfect. That's like great TV, but it doesn't matter for podcasting.
Yeah, we're just talking, right? We're just talking. Yeah. So it's a great spot to leave it though, Robbie. We'll see Sunday, and then next week we're gonna finish up on guys that you might see over the next couple weeks. There's a couple guys that are debuting this week. Joey Bart's and Matt Manning's we're gonna see this week. Matt Manning is stepping onto a mound 15 minutes ago, so he is into his major league career. I'm interested to see how that's going so far. If I look at live scoreboard, there's zeros on the board, bottom of 1, 0 out. So he has recorded 0 outs. He might be just getting started, but great spot to leave it, Robbie. Till next time, it's been Rob and Tyler.